Now we are back again. Hopefully, I don't get any more interruptions. So, let's go for a quick recap. S rank, Saiyan Saga, and Baby Saga for really taking advantage of what Goku experienced, bringing his character to greater heights, his origin, and then going his character full circle, and Frieza's arc and Baby arc helping Goku come to terms with his Saiyan heritage, um, and kinda redeem the Saiyans. The reason um, the Freeza arc isn't as high is obviously because the Saiyan Freeza Saga was way too long. It had awful pacing, even in the manga. The anime had no choice to pace it as it did because it kept catching up. And the filler was kinda okay. It showed us some stuff what the people did on Earth and gave Bulma some purpose, who was completely useless in the anime, in the manga, since all she did is just use a spaceship. But sadly, even the anime adaptation didn't help much because of staring contest. The fight against Frieza lasted for 19 episodes and it was pretty much really hard to bear. At least it was entertaining to the point you could watch several more episodes against Frieza. And the anime made the fight between Frieza and Piccolo feel important, while the manga felt like actual filler. And the Vegeta part of him thinking he's a Super Saiyan, Vegeta didn't immediately give up, but actually increased the amount of attacks until there was nothing he can do. Frieza was too strong. Meanwhile, in the manga, he gave up after trying just a little bit, which felt hollow. Also, the attacks, really, Goku just randomly trying out moves that surpass its limits and failing felt meh. Like Kaioken times 20 just doesn't have the same impact as in the anime. So let's go to the last arc of E rank, which is the Gal and Pilaf arc or Dragon Ball Hunt arc. And the reason why this is the best arc of the original Dragon Ball anime and as good as the Freeza arc is pretty much the character dynamic. So let's go to the main cast, obviously, and let's go and talk about them. We have Goku, who pretty much is just reactive in this arc, which it's interesting at the beginning, but if they were keeping up just him being reactive, it would get boring. This arc that feels a bit more decent since it's the beginning. So Goku was raised in the mountains, and he just reacts to everything and confusing everyone because he is just so overpowered. And as he has some martial arts training on his belt, sees almost anything as a food. When he sees a TV, he thinks people are trapped in a box. It was really well done and really entertaining. And then you have Bulma, who pretty much manipulates everyone with her sexuality, and in case of Oolong, she used a candy which gave him diarrhea every time she said a magical word. And I really hate Bulma, especially because of this arc, but she's also the reason this arc is actually moving forward. She is the reason Goku actually explores the world. She introduced us to the Dragon Balls, and yeah, her manipulativeness kinda make this arc entertaining. And nobody really wanted to be around each other, but they didn't have a choice. Like Goku wasn't willing to give his Dragon Ball to Bulma, but still was following her to find out of the world. But Bulma was taking advantage of Goku's naivety and probably would have managed to get the Dragon Ball out of his hands. Then you have Oolong himself, who was introduced as a kidnapper of woman napper, so to speak, and he was portrayed as someone terrifying, but at the end turns out all the women he took in enslaved him. So that's an interesting plot twist. Also, how Bulma manipulated Oolong made you sad for him, since Oolong didn't do anything wrong. He was pretty much tagging along because he had nowhere to go, and Bulma was wrapping him around his finger with this candy. So you were it was kind of fair or acceptable when he put a roofie into Bulma's drink to knock her out pretty much so he can escape. Since Bulma took even advantage of his gadgets and such, and Oolong didn't really have much of a choice, which made him villain and antagonist you was feeling for. He was the victim of a mean little girl who is over-sexualized. And then you have a Yamcha who has a fear for women, and a bandit, and what he wanted, Bulma wants a boyfriend, which is why she collects the rainbows, and Yamcha wants to get rid of his fear for women. And to be honest, it was fine, since Yamcha at start wanted to take what he wanted, but he decided to because Bulma has a Dragon Radar, he lets them hunt the Dragon Balls and helps them in dangerous situations, and at the end takes the Dragon Balls all for himself. So it was a really nice way to interaction between these characters. Then you have Poor, which is just there so Yamcha has someone to talk about. She was pretty much unimportant besides just one scene, and that one scene is stopping Uza Goku by cutting his tail. We have a few really good gags in that arc, like Goku pulling Bulma's drink while she was knocked off by the roofie, and that led to some interesting payoff when we saw Master Roshi, and we saw Goku being a prodigy, and after Master Roshi was brought to distinguish the flames of Mount Ox King's castle, and I think he blew up the entire castle by mistake. And what else happened? The most important thing why this arc is better in the anime than the manga is how the Pilaf gang were introduced. So the Pilaf gang came out of nowhere in the manga, and apparently they collected Dragon Balls. In the manga they were introduced early on with Mai and Shu collecting the Dragon Balls simultaneously as the others. We find out Pilaf being pretty sadistic to his henchmen, and in terms of torture, the Pilaf gang kinda felt like Team Rocket before Team Rocket. They were a highlight of Dragon Ball, honestly. The anime really made them likable. You wanted to see more of them, even if it's not some important thing. And at first I was excited to see them in Dragon Ball Super, but Dragon Ball Super ruins them by turning them into kids and letting them just make awful toilet humor. None of the jokes can even rival the jokes you see in the Pilaf Saga. And the way they stopped Pilaf getting his wish is by Oolong stepping in and wishing for panties. And it was nice that he got what he wanted. And with this, the arc was pretty much finished with Goku destroying Pilaf's castle. So it was an okay conclusion. The arc was fun to watch. I hear a lot of people dropping Dragon Ball because of this arc, expecting lots of action and saying, when will the arc get good? Considering this arc is actually pretty entertaining, just for the jokes and character dynamic. It's a shame that very little people can enjoy this, because once we go to the arcs that's supposed to be Dragon Ball finally getting good in quotation marks, you will see that the issues really don't really show much payoff for what you're getting. But seriously, the manga version isn't as entertaining. It still has some good moments, but it would definitely be one rank lower. And when it comes to fillers that didn't matter, you have that in the manga too, which is the carrot gang, the rabbit gang. You can take that episode or chapter out and you lose nothing. And yeah, Monster Carrot, it's not an awful episode, but it's irrelevant. Let's go to the B rank, which has the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai. The arc starts off with Goku coming to Master Roshi for training, and they meet also Krillin, a rival character who is very selfish, and being introduced. And they had a nice dynamic, and eventually there were a lot of moments where Krillin tried to one-up Goku and manipulate him in a way so he can get all the training for himself. Master Roshi originally intended only to train one of them, which I think was really uncalled for. But instead we got we got lunch, a pretty much filler character, really didn't need to exist. But I guess we need to humiliate women even more. She just exists to be humiliated and be violent. Like I said, Toriyama can't write female characters well, and Lunch really represents both sides. The kind side is just retarded mentally, and the mad side is insanely violent. And the anime makes her more likable over the course of the series, but in the manga launch both versions aren't really worth investing in. And in this arc she is unbearable in both ways. So that's one reason it won't be S rank for sure. The reason why it won't be A rank is the following. It's the tournament itself, but before we get to that, some positive things. The training part was executed really well. So the warm up is them delivering milk through long walks, hopping, going in zigzags. The real training portion was Goku and Krillin escaping from piranhas and bees, and holding trying to erase their sturdiness and fighting position with heavy shells. Learning math, training the brain pretty much, which is, I think it's an interesting way for training methods. I think the training from Master Roshi was really entertaining, especially when they learned, they worked on the field with their bare hands, and then they worked in the construction where they were allowed to use the tools actually. And the final thing is the importance of rest, which this is why I like the training of Master Roshi. It showed a lot of his he was shown as a wise sage in that arc. Before that he was just an overpowered old man who is into loot shit, and this his pervertness kinda is balanced out by his wisdom. So he wasn't it's your typical anime old master teacher, and I think sleep well, eat well, train well, and live well. Master Roshi's famous, amazing quote, which Dragon Ball Super tried to take advantage of fake fields, and it didn't work. Only on those who just didn't watch good Dragon Ball to see that it was a cheap manipulative trick. So this is the best arc for any Master Roshi fan. The Master Roshi fans are created in this arc, honestly. If you like Master Roshi for any reason, it should be because of this arc. So watch this arc definitely, and we aren't even halfway through because we have to cover the tournament. And before that, again, I have to emphasize Master Roshi just trained the durability and intellect of his students and gives them some kind of training routine instead of teaching them fighting techniques, and it honestly paid off. Krillin would eventually beat those guys who wronged him in the tournament, and Master Roshi disguised himself as Jacky Chun to humble his students. So basically force them to lose with his own hand, because the participants were all joke characters. Nobody could really pose a threat to Master Roshi and his students, at least in this tournament. And that's actually a problem, because there were too many joke fights. You have Krillin versus Bacterian, and Bacterian is really annoying, because the joke was fine in how he was defeated, but his attacks and how he goes, it was not pleasant to watch. And he is not the only joke fight. You have Nam versus Ramfan, who Ramfan using her sexuality to his advantage, even undressing herself to beat Nam. Nam is probably one of the characters you wanted to win, because he wanted water for his village, and Goku, who didn't take the fights really serious and just joked around, really didn't make me feel comfortable seeing him win, to be honest. It's one of the times I didn't want the main character to win. I was disappointed, but Master Roshi stepped in and helped him with a large water tank, and told him just to fill it with water, which is free from nearby the tournament, which Nam did, and his village was apparently saved in the manga. In the anime there's some filler which fixes the drought problem forever, even if it's kinda cheap how it's done. So what happens next is, before that we have Yamcha being utterly humiliated and showcasing how strong Master Roshi really is. And sadly, it's a tradition from Yamcha to get eliminated in the first round of the Planet Rim, of the finals. He never reached the semi-finals, which is disappointing. Then you have Goku versus Giran. In the anime that fight was built up, but yeah, Goku's ability to get stronger when his tail grows back has been shown. Otherwise, it was not really interesting. It wasn't an interesting fight. It's such a shame. I think Giran being a dinosaur made me like him a little. But the real highlight is obviously Goku versus Jackie Chan, or Jackie Chun. But before that, Krillin versus Jackie Chun was okay. I think they made fun of the people watching, because they move so fast people can't see them, so I feel they actually fucked around with the viewers, not claiming what they did. Actually, that didn't make sense in such a short amount of time. So hey, they went kinda overboard. You have to watch it. It was entertaining, but not really as good as the final fight, where Goku and Jackie Chun fought. Jackie Chun showing the advantage of being a grown up. You also wanted Jackie Chun to win, so Goku really gets humbled. But how they went against each other, it was really entertaining. There was the first beam struggle. It was okay, I guess. But I liked Drunken Fist versus Monkey Fist a little bit more, and Goku transforming into an Ozaru and Master Roshi solving it by destroying the moon was hilarious. So, and he wasted so much energy that Goku finally was able to even out the difference in power, and yeah, I guess that was satisfying. Goku lost, so it was showed that there's still room for Goku to grow, and it kept Master Roshi still as some kind of barrier that needs to be surpassed. So definitely a great and good arc to watch, especially the ending with a nice humor of Master Roshi inviting everyone for dinner with the prize money he won, and what happened after, which if you watch the arc you already know. It was pretty entertaining, and I think for now this is enough. It's getting pretty late and I don't want to record so often. We will try finishing off the other B rank arcs. Sorry I didn't talk much. It's about half as long as I talked about the other arcs, but this should be efficient. So far we have finished 5 arcs. Next time we try to finish even more. And this arc, the Red Ribbon arc, is a bit too long to just talk now. So we will see each other next time. See you around. Goodbye.